Billy here, back from the dead, giving a shout out to Mr. Toy Games, one of the most entertaining YouTubers I've ever seen. I hope your future is full of little female robot midgets. Excelsior! And goodbye!
I love the NECA D&D line. So much so that in 2023, I gave old Warduke here my figure of the year. I even got to tell Randy Falk, one of the lead designers, about it in person. And it was an honor and it was very cool. What about that? Well, in the toy space, we call that being a hardcore fucking shill. But I didn't care because I really felt that this line and these figures captured the retro vibe with an updated look. Something that could go toe-to-toe with something like Mythic Legions and any other, sword and board, sorcery, barbarian, Dungeons and Dragons, obviously, style figures out there. I love these things. But here we are in 2025, and it looks like the line is dead. So how do I feel about it? What do we do about it? Why do I think it failed? Let's talk about everything you will criticize me on next on Toy Gains. Toy Gains! That's you and me, baby! Toy Gains! I can't take it anymore! It's Toy Gains!
So anyways, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
So real quick, in that interview with Randy, and that's where I just got him to tell me his favorite figure of that year, which was Rock and Roll by G.I. Joe Classified. I told him over and over again how beautiful I thought this was, so much so that I sold my retro collection. I had about 10 figures of the retro collection, and Randy, he didn't tell me to sell my collection, but I asked him how it was doing. He said well enough to continue the line. And I then asked him, are we at least getting up to 10 figures? At that time, we were at 3. He said, yes, that's the plan. We want 8 to 10 figures. And we got 5. Now, out of nowhere, in that time frame, Hasbro had the animated line on shelves that were peg warming. Then NECA made these, and then Super 7 announced Ultimates. And coincidentally, the Ultimates by Super 7 are gone. I believe they canceled a figure. I don't know what's going on with the dragon. And it just looked like out of nowhere, it was too much D&D. And I don't know if, you're kind of separating the audience, right? You have people that are going to buy the Hasbro stuff, and that's it. People that are going to wait for the Super 7 stuff, and that's it. People like me that might buy both. People like me that prefer the NECA stuff. So you're splitting up the audience, and it's a niche brand. People love Dungeons and Dragons. They love, mythical type characters. They love Motu. They love Mythic Legions, Savage Crucible. So why not? Well, first off, this isn't like Mythic Legions where you can use the same buck over and over and over, or like Savage Crucible. There's no builder in this line. There's no Ninja Turtle buck to keep doing reuse. Sure, they did repaints on the retro card, and I think once that ultimately failed, that was the nail in the coffin. There's some reuse amongst these two fellas, and that's it. But we really needed Kellic the Wizard. We needed, I think his name was Murph, the elf, little elf fighter. And we needed the cleric. I think at least giving us those 3, giving us 8 figures would have made me happy. But we don't have that. We have the 5 here. And I'm not disappointed in the figures. They're beautiful. But I just I have something it's unfinished business. And when I see them going kind of all in on gargoyles, and they sat on shelves, they peg-warmed. When I see them going back to the well constantly with Ninja Turtles, making Halloween. I know they got a big horror fan base, and I know there's some people that love Halloween 4, but that figure's peg-warming at my target. And you just had to finish the job. You know, as a toy maker, when you get a fan to start buying your line, it's like a relationship. And I put my faith in them to at least flesh out the line, give us the 10 figures. And that's something a modern collector has to deal with. When I was collecting vintage of this line, I knew it would be costly. It would cost me a lot of money. But eventually, there's an end. There is an end. And the unique thing is, NECA was so in on this in the beginning that they made 2 retro figures that were never made in the 80s that were promised by LGN, which was very cool. So it looked like NECA had every intention on really, being all in with the D&D line, and it just didn't sell. Now, is it their responsibility as a toy maker to finish the job? I don't know. I also asked Randy about Pee Wee Herman, and he said if it sells, they'll make Cherry, and they'll make, Lawrence Fishburne. Was either Cowboy Curtis, but I barely saw Pee Wee on shelves. So how could something succeed you barely see on shelves? You go to Target, sometimes you see these figures, but sometimes you see them buried underneath plushies. So I don't know who's to blame. I just wish NECA would have came out of the gate with 8 figures. The waves were in 2. Actually, I think they were these 2 first, and then him, and then 2. Just, when you make waves like that, sometimes collectors don't have the faith that you're going to make everything, so they're hesitant to buy. If you just came right out of the gate maybe with 8 figures, I don't know, maybe people would have thought that you were going to really go all in. A lot of people at the time were disappointed in the way gargoyles were being rolled out. I'm just speculating. I'm just making excuses. I don't know exactly what happened. The bottom line is they must have not have sold. And I think it was kind of a flooded market with Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And so what I did is this. I know it kind of looks like a mess, but now I just kind of have these displayed with other characters. I got the Witcher mixed in there. I got a wizard from Mythic Legions, some skeleton guy from Mythic Legions. I just mix it all together. And that's my, my wizards and warriors and my sword and board high fantasy shelf. And I'm happy with it. Is it a perfect world? Do I wish it worked out better? Of course I do. But, I think the Rolling Stones said it best when you can't always get what you want, but you find out sometimes you get what you need, baby. And you don't need everything. Sure, it is nice when lines are fully sold to completion or made to completion. It's great. And it looks like NECA is going all in on everything under the sun, Ninja Turtles. But man, what could have been. Anyway, let me know what you think. Did you collect any of these? Do you care about any of these? Do you agree at least about how good they look? Well, if you do, let me know down below. As always, take care. Have fun.
Everything that guy just says is bullshit. Thank you.
Woo! Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah!